we're back with the mock drafts. I have made so many drafts and haven't been able to put them up, and I'm excited for this one because I know it's going up today. And I've talked so much about different prospects throughout those, and I'm going to emphasize it even more on this one to make sure that my point gets across. But there is a lot of prospects that I don't think we expected to be as good as they were coming into this college football season, which is the entertaining part about college football. You get quarterback prospects like Cam Ward, who is my QB1, and it's lovely to see him be the QB1 because I'm a UM fan. There's players like Ashton Genty, who everybody's been raving about, but I've been excited about since week one. Unfortunately, I don't have physical proof of it on the channel, but you're going to see me rave about him today and hopefully not draft him to the Cowboys because I would rather him go to any other team but the Cowboys. And players like Jalen Milroe, who we kind of expected to be the QB in this draft class, but has just, I don't know, something about what's going on in Alabama just doesn't sit right. And they are one loss away from not even making the college football playoffs, which would be insane since it's not even the 4-team layout anymore. Like, they barely made it last year, and that was because they beat Georgia. Georgia fans didn't like that they got booted out. That's in the past now. They lost soon after, but I think Alabama deserved it. At the end of the day, we do start off with this lineup right here of round one. I put it in terms of Super Bowl odds because PFF kind of has a weird type of layout at points. Cardinals were supposed to be like the 7th, not even. It was supposed to be in this area right here, like close to the 20s. The Cardinals are not either going to make the playoffs, or if they do, they're not going to do much. So I see them being a top 15 team in the draft. But we're going to go ahead and get started with the number one overall pick being the Carolina Panthers. And I don't think they go Travis Hunter. He is who I would think is the number one pick. Any normal draft, I think he probably would be if it wasn't the Panthers at number one. Now, since the Jaguars seem to kind of find their footing a little bit, even though they did just lose to the Jaguars in an untimely fashion, to say the least, I think the Jaguars still could win some games back. They probably go to the lower top 10s or right under 10 to pick in this draft class. I was hoping that they would kind of tank to try to get somebody like Travis Hunter to boost them up a bit more, but I don't think that's going to happen. But going back to the Carolina Panthers, a QB situation out of hell is the way to describe that, because Bryce Young still isn't really doing much. They just faced the Broncos. The Broncos did what they wanted to the Carolina Panthers, as most teams have been able to do this season, except for the team right after them being the Las Vegas Raiders, who have been the definition of disappointment in the last 3 or 4 years, since Josh McDaniels kind of put a plague into that front office. But we are going to be looking at quarterback, and unfortunately, as much as I want Cam Ward to be the number one pick off the board because he deserves it, I also don't want him to go to Carolina and be in that situation. I think the only type of quarterback that can be in that situation is a more prototypical quarterback. The size, the speed, the ability to throw the long ball, and Jalen Milroe has all of that. Maybe the Alabama play calling just isn't there, or just the offensive line, which, I mean, the Panthers invested into a lot, and hopefully they'll invest more into it, whether it's in the draft or free agency. And even wide receivers. I mean, Jalen Milroe now has Williams as a wide receiver who has been a really generational college prospect, and I'm excited for the future drafts that I don't think he'll be qualified for next year, but probably the year after. But Jalen Milroe is going to be the number one pick off of my board, although he is not my QB1, and now it's very clear because in the past two that I've done, he was 1A, 1B with Cam Ward, and I had Cam Ward at 1A. He's a very clear number two to Cam Ward. And I'm just going to go ahead with the Alabama quarterback, Jalen Milroe. They might hesitate since he is from Alabama, and Bryce Young also is, but who knows? Maybe they can be good teammates, or they just pack up Bryce Young to a team that's looking for a quarterback, maybe even the Dolphins, although Tua did just come back. I think this is a good time for teams to start thinking about that as the season goes on, especially with the Dolphins just now losing to the Cardinals, which is still outrageous to me, to say the least, since I am a Miami. Never mind. I'm not really claiming them right now. The Las Vegas Raiders, though, at the number 2 spot. The top 3 picks are really just going to be going quarterback, to be fair. It's just a matter of who they're going to get. Maybe not the Titans going quarterback, although they do have Mason Rudolph in instead of Will Levis. But once you get out of these top 3, in terms of Jalen Milroe, Cam Ward, and Shedeur Sanders, there's not really much. There isn't. Garrett Nussmeier and Carson Beck both are kind of at the same level for me. And a lot of people thought Carson Beck was going to be standout this season. He hasn't really been much. I mean, they're both very reliant on the play calling that they get. And the difference between them and these guys is that these 3 are able to figure it out on the fly and break out of tackles in the pocket and things of that nature. Although LSU is supposed to have one of the better tackles, or both sides of the tackles, in the league, Emory Jones just hasn't been able to do much. Carson Beck, I mean, he hasn't done much to really impress me. And I think these 2 are like, for sure, backup quarterbacks in like the next 5 years, without a doubt in my mind. Some teams might try to get them and be like, oh, we're going to start him behind, like Michael Penix. You know, I mean, I think Michael Penix should have been a starter somewhere. But although he is going to be older by the time Kirk Cousins retires, I think he's still going to be a good quarterback in the NFL. But the Raiders could really go with Cam Ward, but it seems like they've been very lenient on going Shedeur. Since they just had him visit at one point, I think for a game, and the owner said this could be your home soon. So, strictly based off of that, I'm very lenient on going Shedeur Sanders, although he's not more talented than Cam Ward. A lot of these guys have high upside, but I don't see them, or I don't see Shedeur Sanders as somebody who's to the level of Cam Ward, although Cam Ward has had a bit more time since he's a transfer from Washington State, went to Miami, and now is just performing very well. And right now they're at the 6th spot. They may get bumped up in the AP polls come today, if I'm not mistaken. It's Monday. But Shedeur Sanders has a lot of potential, also just because of his genes. He has the potential to be a superstar. And he can handle the spotlight. He can handle the spotlight, and there's a lot in Las Vegas. I'm going to go Shedeur. Shedeur going to the Raiders. The Titans, I mean, at this point, it's pretty obvious. Although Travis Hunter is still up on the board and wide receiver is in need for them, I just don't see them sticking with the situation that they have. I think if they have the opportunity for one of these players, they'll definitely get them. I don't know if the Titans are going to be that bad that they're going to be top 3, so they might even go wide receiver by the end of the day. But if they're in this position and they have the top 3 quarterbacks and they're coming off the board, Shedeur Sanders goes number 2 instead of being the one that's on the board, I would definitely go Cam Ward if I'm in the Tennessee Titans position. You got Will Levis in the 2nd round a couple years back. You're not really losing a lot in terms of that first-round pick possibility. Mason Rudolph is Mason Rudolph. He was the backup quarterback for the Steelers for God knows how long and a starter for a year. And then they got Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett shit the bed, and now they have Russell Wilson, who's been performing well. But Cam Ward should be able to bring a new front to the Titans. Now, since Calvin Ridley is more of the focal point, having a wide receiver already on the team that you're going to, and a moderately decent offensive line. They have some issues with penalties at points, but I think they have a pretty good offensive line. Did I say defensive? I'm sorry. Their defensive line is also solid. They have a very strong defense, and it sucks for like the stronger teams that are down here when they face them, because they give them a run for their money, but then break down whenever the offense doesn't really do much. But with that being said, Cam Ward is my number one quarterback. He's been performing very well. Really knows how to get into a rhythm and the rhythm passing. He doesn't try to rush the ball to anybody. He tries to take his time, read the defense, and know what's coming. There was a corner blitz against FSU that he immediately read, and really with ease, to be honest. And he's been able to do that basically all season. He can handle the pressure in tight games. He's won several times in tight games. And I think he has what it takes. This could be like a Jaden Daniels to the Washington Commanders type of pick for the Titans if they handle it correctly. If they don't, there's something to say about it, but I think Cam Ward would be able to figure it out with the wide receiver talent that the Titans have. And just off of his pure skill, I love him as a quarterback. I think he has a very strong throwing motion and doesn't try to just like force it into tight spaces, but he tries to get guys into space. And he's just very talented. I love watching him. I love watching highlights of him and how he's been doing all season. Hopefully he keeps it up, and hopefully he takes Miami to the college football playoffs. God forbid the momentum stops. But the New England Patriots, although, again, very tempting that Travis Hunter's up here, any normal draft, any draft that the top 3 teams are not QB needy, Travis Hunter's going number 1. And maybe Mason Graham after that. But Travis Hunter is a for sure number 1 in most circumstances. He may even go to the Panthers as the number 1 pick if they decide to try to give Bryce Young another year. I don't think that's going to happen. But the Patriots are in desperate need of a tackle, and Will Campbell is the man to do it. While Emory Jones has been shitting the bed in LSU, Will Campbell's been holding his own. Of course, the only times that he's really allowed any sort of sacks, hurries, or hits is whenever they're either double teaming him, like they got 2 guys going straight at him on the edge, or 3, because I saw that happen in this past game against Texas A&M, and they got in. I mean, you can't really do much. He has the size of Joe Alt, but you can only do so much against 3 guys, and you're only 1 tackle. So I think they would definitely go the Will Campbell route. There's not really much more to say about it. I mean, he's been very good. Obviously, 49.3 was his grade, but it was more because they were picking at the edges and just loading it up on the edge. And Will Campbell should be going to the New England Patriots. And the New Orleans Saints, who started off 2-0, mind you, are now 2-6, if I'm not mistaken, which is, or 2-5. I can't remember. They just lost again to the Chargers, which, fun fact, every team that has faced the Cardinals the week after has won the game. Let's see if that continues. But the New Orleans Saints are on the board, who really need defensive line. They could go Mason Graham to put next to Brian Brisset. I think they would probably go somebody like Nick Scorton, who is raw talent and already is kind of coming into his own. He's been impressive at Texas A&M, and so is that whole defensive line. He's been very consistent, as you can see. And he's honestly been one of the only edge rushers that I've legitimately seen consistently making plays on defense. So I'm trying to think if they try to go that route. They're not going to go interior offensive line. Their tackles, maybe. But with the aging edge rushers that they have, they might want to add some more, especially with Chase Young on a prove-it deal. Actually, might have gotten an extension. But Nick Scorton would be a very bright future for this New Orleans Saints team. And with the cap space that they keep struggling with, they have to rely heavily on rookie contracts. And that might just be what they do with this. I'm trying to think of anything else that they could possibly go after. Travis Hunter is possible, but also maybe not. that's really about it. It's just these top prospects that I would even think about. Mason Graham is a possible situation for them. I just don't know if they're going to put so much emphasis on that interior line. They might as well have to. They have Chase Young, they have Carl Granderson, they have Cameron Jordan, Peyton Turner. They've actually invested a lot in these recent years, because I see Isaiah Foskey here, who is also a recent draftee. I'm going to go Mason Graham going to the New Orleans Saints, which would be scary in the future with Brian Brisset and him. But Mason Graham is just, I don't know a way to say it other than he just plows through the offensive line. And that is all pause necessary, but he's a game wrecker. That's the way to say it. He is a game wrecker. And he helps Kenneth Grant a lot in terms of having all of the offensive lines focus on him in terms of Mason Graham. And Kenneth Grant also gets his own because he's talented and he moves fast for a 340-pound man. But Mason Graham is the focal point of that defensive line. And I think he will continue to be as the Saints draft him to be a part of their defensive line. And they've always been known for that. And hopefully he just adds even more to that interior for them. That would be beautiful on that Saints defense. But we will be going to the Cleveland Browns, who might be trading up if necessary for a QB. I just don't know which team is going to be doing that. It might even be the Carolina Panthers and they go wide receiver or somebody like that. But in this one, I'm not going to go focused on trades and things of that nature. I think they've always needed a tackle at this point. And with Jedrick Wills really only being the only one that can stay moderately healthy. Sorry, I don't know how to... Actually, no, Jake Conklin. Jedrick Wills Jr. is getting injured very frequently. DeJuan Jones is technically the backup for both sides of the ball. Pure size, really. He's been filling in at that left tackle spot. But they have to be able to get somebody that's not just pure size, because I feel like I don't see a lot of help from... Actually, he's also... Sorry. A report confused the fuck out of me. But I think they need to be able to get a younger offensive line. It seems like the age is affecting them more and more the more the time goes on. And Jack Conklin is 30 years old. I could definitely see them going tackle since they've been that type of team for a while. I don't think they go halfback. I think Jerome Ford should be fine in terms of for the future. Nick Chubb is Nick Chubb. I don't know how much more they're going to rely on him. But wide receiver, quarterback is another option, but it's just there's no QBs that are really going to stand out to them. Unless Carson Beck starts to realize what prospect he was coming into college. I don't think anything's going to happen with that. I mean, Ashton Genty's a possibility. But as I said, they already have a deep running back room. The only way that I see it is that they waited out on the quarterback situation and they try to help Deshaun Watson as much as possible, or whoever's going to be the quarterback. They still have to pay him $70 million next year. So they're kind of shit out of luck on that. McMillan has really been the only consistent big hitter in this wide receiver group. I mean, Isaiah Bond has been reliable in terms of a Jalen Waddle type of wide receiver because he's small, but he's not weak, if that makes sense. Or he's smaller compared to the rest of the class. Luther Burden has yet to be seen much. I mean, he has 450 yards, but had 2 good games, and then the rest have kind of been piss poor. He had 2 receptions and 15 yards in his last game, and it was against Alabama, which could have been a game that he showed off. But it doesn't seem like the program has his best interest in mind. In reality, the Browns might go tackle, but as of right now, I'm going to feel as though they're going to go with trying to put talent around Deshaun Watson as much as tackle is in need. I'm still very tempted to get it, but I will just go wide receiver for right now, and I'm going to go with who seems to be the best wide receiver in this draft class right now. I know Luther Burden is very talented, but a lot of teams don't see what happened before. They see what happened in the past year, and I see the Browns as one of those teams that can do that. The Jaguars, though, very clearly, I mean, at this point, oh, shit. Travis Hunter could have gone to the Browns. I don't know if they try to look for that because the Jaguars either would trade up, maybe, because they need somebody who can probably play both sides of the ball and very effectively. Travis Hunter is an incredible wide receiver, but he is also a very incredible and natural cornerback, which I don't know what just happened, but Travis Hunter has been very impressive, and I've loved to watch him. And I'll say Shedeur Sanders, Jimmy Horn Jr. is also very impressive in that Colorado wide receiver team. I mean, all of them have been very impressive, but Jimmy Horn has been reliable for Shedeur. And yes, he got his touchdown called back because he threw up the peace sign at the defender like Tyreek Hill, because he has that kind of speed. But I think he's still talented. Maybe he just has some character issues. Who knows? We'll find out more later on. But I think Travis Hunter will go and stop this fall that he has going on and go to the Jacksonville Jaguars, which I think would be the best fit and would allow him to play both sides of the ball. I think he can handle it. I don't know why a lot of people think that he can't, or that players in general can't. I think that his cardio and his ability is definitely there to be able to withstand that type of pressure. And the New York Giants, who I'm sure wish that they were up there in terms of the quarterback again, but they're not. They might be, but they're not. And I don't think they try to go with these guys. I think these guys are going to fall out of the first round, and maybe even Quinn Ewers too. So then you have to go another route. And that route just might be right tackle. With the Giants, they have Andrew Thomas, who has been pretty solid. They drafted Evan Neal years back, but he hasn't really done much. I almost forgot that Andrew Thomas is out for an extended amount of time and is on the IR. So that's something to think about. But I think they try to go right tackle as much as possible. Calvin Banks is a left tackle, so I don't know if that would be the one. It might be Cameron Williams, since he's been the one right tackle that has kind of stood out at this point. Emory Jones still has the ability to be that guy, but I don't know. He doesn't have like a standout measurement. Might even go Blake Miller, but I still think that he's a second-round pick. They could go Kelvin Banks and move him, but I don't know if you move a guy that has excelled at that position as much as he has. You move a guy that's like DeJuan Jones, who is big, has length. You play him on both sides of the ball, really. I mean, not both sides of the ball, both sides of the line. I might go Cameron Williams here. I might. As of right now, maybe Ursary could be a possibility to move over, but I'm going to go with the legitimate right tackle and go Cameron Williams. Maybe it works out for them. They did just pay Jermaine Elaminor, but I don't see them going with Kelvin Banks and trying to move him. Or maybe they do and I'm just stupid, but there's a lot of options up here. They might even move out of it, but I'm going to go Cameron Williams, going to the New York Giants. Focus on that offensive line as much as possible. Yes, corner may need some help, but I think that Giants defense is pretty solid. And the Miami Dolphins, who I hope tank for the rest of the season so they can get Cam Ward, are in a sticky situation right now, really. They have a lot of aging players on big contracts, which teams trap themselves into. I don't think they go Will Johnson. He has left much to be desired this season. I think he's had a little more than one good game, but he just hasn't really been impressive. He has 2 interceptions on the season. I don't think they go cornerback, though. I think they still are confident in their cornerback room. Benjamin Morrison has been a little bit more reliable in terms of this cornerback class. But in reality, I think they do go offensive line. And I would have them taking Kelvin Banks Jr. To be behind Teron Armstead for the future. You have to be able to keep that left tackle consistent. And the Miami Dolphins had that issue in the past of not for a bit. Kelvin Banks could just come in and be the type of prospect that Will Campbell is and be one of the more reliable tackles in the league. Whether they decide to move him to the right side until Teron Armstead leaves, or they put him in immediately with Teron Armstead's injuries basically declining his career and him be on the other side of Austin Jackson, I think that it would work out regardless. I just think, regardless of anything, the Dolphins need to go offensive line. And that's really it. Kelvin Banks Jr. has been the definition of a left tackle for the majority of the season. And I think they make that pick for the future. And I'm sure Teron Armstead will take it as a mentor role instead of taking it as getting replaced. But the Indianapolis Colts, how old is Kelvin Banks? Sorry, that was completely off topic. He's a junior, so he's probably around 2021. So that should be good for the future as well. So we're going to go to the Indianapolis Colts, who have a tired quarterback in Anthony Richardson. Tight end could be a situation that they go with, but safety is definitely something that I could see. And this is a spot where I'm going to have Malachi Starks going. Yes, some games he hasn't shown up, specifically against one big team being Alabama, but Alabama basically did whatever they wanted that game and used every play that they had and then started shitting the bed afterwards. Not even just in that game, but in the games after. I'm sorry. Malachi Starks, though, one of the more talented safeties that I've seen, more defensive backs than I've seen. And I think that he could help that Colts defense even more. They've struggled at points more than I've seen them before. He's great in run and zone. I mean, I think it's the best pick for them. I really do. As much as tight end is tempting, and Colson Loveland is honestly my favorite tight end in this class, although Warren has been coming up in it, I think the best pick for them would be Malachi Starks. And we're going to have the Georgia man go at the 10th spot. And the Dallas Cowboys, who have been the definition of disappointment, and with Sunday Night Football also passing, Dak Prescott getting paid, and he just kind of stat pads at the end of the game, so the sports analyst can't go at his stats. They've just been... What's the term for it that basketball people use? The Mickey Mouse team. That's what I'll say. Because the fact that Jerry Jones has people touring the place during the season while players are training is kind of outrageous to me. I am not letting Ashton Genty go to this team, and I am so sorry, but they need somebody on defensive line. They do. And Kenneth Grant could fit that mold because they try to get Mozzie Smith. Oh, Deion Walker could also be it. He's a lot better being the defensive tackle than probably Kenneth Grant is. I think Kenneth Grant gets a lot of boost in his stock because of Mason Graham. But I think I'm going to go Kenneth Grant. He's still very talented, and he can move very fast for a 340-pound man. But U of M, Kenneth Grant should be going to the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not going to allow Ashton Genty to go there until absolutely necessary. I still think Rico Dowdle is a very solid halfback that they should focus on more instead of having a running back committee. So we'll see what happens with that. The Cardinals, yes, could go tackle. Now, they went Paris Johnson recently, and they have Calvin Beachum at right tackle. There's not a lot more right tackles on this board, except for Emory Jones. Do they take that chance? Maybe not. They probably try to wait it out to the second round. So I'll keep that in mind as a Cardinals general manager, that I am planning to take a right tackle in the next round, because that's the majority of where these guys are going to go. Blake Miller's a right tackle. Emory Jones is a right tackle. And I think in this position, they need to focus a little more on talent and bringing talent to that defense. Danny Stutzman could be a great addition to the team. I think corner might be something that they could go after. Wide receiver is a definite no. Nick Scorton could definitely be somebody that I see going to the Cardinals. They have decent edge rushers. I just think they're not very, like, wow type of guys. Jahad Campbell's able to do a little bit of both. That could be a possibility. Here at the 12 spot, though, it might be Danny Stutzman as of right now. I think he's a good field general on the defensive side, and that might just be what they need. And they honestly need to focus on defense a little more than offense in these drafts going forward. I'll go Danny Stutzman for them, although defensive interior could be possible. Deion Walker, fuck. How did I forget about him in like 2 seconds? Nah, I'm going to go Deion Walker. Deion Walker just makes sense. He does. Deion Walker makes sense. He can be there on his own. He just gets through that line. I love watching Kentucky's defensive line, especially him. Whenever they're on fire, man. Deion Walker going to Arizona. And the New York Jets, who have been right there with the Dallas Cowboys being the definition of disappointment, could look for QB with the way that Aaron Rodgers has been playing. Tight end, probably not. Cornerback is definitely something that I could see. I mean, Will Johnson at this point could see a New York Jets uniform. And I would expect them to take somebody like this that kind of just has the name and the time that he's done in these past years. This year, honestly, I haven't been super impressed, but he's still up there. I mean, the cornerback class isn't that impressive right now, other than Travis Hunter. Because it's like Travis Hunter all the way up here, and then the rest are like down here, in my eyes. And in what I've seen, I haven't, I'm not going to say too much about that. But Will Johnson, I think, could be a good pickup. Falls out of the top 10, which usually doesn't happen. I mean, at one point, he was actually my top pick in the draft class. I think that was after the Texas game. I think it was after the Texas game that I had him going literally number 1. But it was a team that needed a cornerback. But I'm going to have him going to the New York Jets, who really just have Sauce Gardner and nobody else out there all of a sudden. I thought they're one of the best defenses in the league, especially with last year being top 5 ranked, if I'm not mistaken. And now they just give up every point possible to the other team. Doesn't make any sense to me. But the Seattle Seahawks, who just got mollywopped by the Buffalo Bills, are looking for possible offensive linemen. Which, who isn't, really? I mean, it's just a situation that They got Charles Cross on the left side, but nobody on the right side. Again, something that they could look for in the second round. Not a lot of these guys are worth taking in the first round that are right tackles. And they could take a chance on them in the second. But right now, I could see the defensive side of the ball. God, I want to take Nick Scorton so bad, but I'm not. I'm not going to. I'm not going to. I mean, so sorry. I'm so tempted. I think I am going to go Nick Scorton. Nick Scorton could add so much to this defensive line. Oh my gosh. I'm trying to convince myself out of it, but there's really nothing. They just got Ernest Jones, so I don't know why linebacker or something. I mean, Boye Mafe isn't great, but he's decent. He can handle it. I don't know. I would love Nick Scorton on the other side of Leonard Williams. I mean, it did just get Byron Murphy. But they could just figure it out. They could just figure it out with them. I'm going to go Nick Scorton to the Seahawks. Another edge rusher for them. I know. Byron Murphy just came out of Texas. It's unfortunate for him, but I just love Nick Scorton and the possibility of him being a part of that defensive line. They could just have a very stacked defensive line and just figure it out. I mean, Byron Murphy, he's 306, 6 foot. He can move inside, maybe. They kind of need it. But I'm going to go Nick Scorton going to the Seattle Seahawks. I can't in my right mind not go that with the way that McDonald is now coaching the Seahawks. And he seems very defensive oriented, especially for this. Except for this past game against the Bills, because they're giving up everything. But I think that was a defensive back issue. But I don't think they tried to replace them. I mean, they got Tariq Woolen. Can't speak English. Devin Witherspoon, Trey Brown. I love most of those guys. Kobe Bryant's good. Julian Love is good. I mean, he's older, but he's good. I just don't see them going cornerback either. The Buccaneers, who, I mean, you can see the top prospect right now is Ashton Jeanty. I could see it, but Bucky Irving has been impressive. I don't think they waste a draft pick on it. It's not like it'll be a waste. They can get rid of all the other halfbacks, and Ashton Jeanty can just run that ball. I might go Benjamin Morrison here. He's just reliable, and I think that's what they would want to look for. LT Overton is here. So is Abdul Carter. They have solid edge rushers. I think the cornerback room needs a little bit more talent. At points, it's just a lot of grit, and they've been able to figure it out. But with them just facing the Falcons and basically getting demolished in the pass coverage situation, or dealt, I wouldn't say demolished. They were in the game for most of it, but at points you could tell where coverages were broken, and they found the holes that usually talent would realize that's a hole, I need to keep an eye on that. And they weren't doing that. They were just sticking to their assignment. But Benjamin Morrison, I think, could be able to figure it out. Gosh, I want to go him or Abdul Carter. That's for sure. Abdul Carter has been good at Penn State. Michael Williams, I haven't seen much from. I haven't. Yeah, his run defense is great, but so is everybody else on the Bucs defense. They need somebody that can pass rush. They need somebody that can do it both. And Abdul Carter is a great pass rusher, which for some reason I was confusing him with somebody else. But I am going to go Abdul Carter going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They need somebody that can pass rush, get into that pocket, at least pressure the quarterback, if not sack, and also play run defense. And I think Abdul Carter can do it both. I think he'll get better whenever he gets to the Bucs because they seem to have a very strong emphasis on that. But the LA Rams are here, and cornerback is still a situation that they need to be looking at, and now is when I'm going to have Benjamin Morrison going. Siobhan Revel's a possibility. I don't know how much Sean McVay wants to roll the dice on an injury. Because Savon Revels should be back by at least the draft process, if I'm not mistaken. Tore his ACL. It was a season-ending injury, I think. But Benjamin Morrison is the one that's healthy. Takario Davis might be a sleeper in terms of a first-round pick. And I could see Sean McVay trying to go after something like that just because of his pure size and length. 6'4", 190. Hasn't been fantastic, but neither has Benjamin Morrison, and he's just smaller. I don't think Takario Davis is 190, but I think if he had to choose between Takario and Benjamin Morrison, he might go Takario. That's almost like a Tariq Woolen type of pick. Gosh. I'm not going to go Takario, but just keep it in mind. Keep it in mind that I mentioned that he might go first round. Because he may well go first round. But I'm going to go Benjamin Morrison for this one. See that Sean McVay is probably not going to roll the dice on somebody that he needs to be a for sure cornerback, because it's just been kind of messy in that defensive back room, although they did just get the win against the Vikings. But the Chicago Bears here on the board, guard, tackle, and defensive interior is what PFF says that they need. I could see them even going for Ashton Zenzi to add to that young offense. It would be a surprising one, but it's almost like a Bijan Robinson going to the Falcons type of pick. Ashton Zenzi, although he is smaller, like 5'9" smaller, that man can break tackles like I've never seen before. He has the like Marshawn Lynch ability to break tackles. And any team that is going to add him to the team is going to get tremendous talent. UNLV, he still performed well. He had to earn every single yard because that UNLV defense was making an emphasis on him not getting what he wanted. But I still think that he should be a top pick in this draft class. Honestly, might be the way I go. Defensive interior just isn't a position right here that I'm willing to take. Neither is offensive tackle or offensive interior. Ashton Zenzi just makes the most sense. It's the value pick here. If you do anything else, you're going to be reaching. So I'm going to go Ashton Zenzi joining that young Chicago Bears offense. Or younger, I would say, because that trio of Caleb Williams, Ashton Zenzi, and Rome Odunze should be good for the future. DJ Moore is still fairly young. Keenan Allen might just be on his way out soon. Not trade-wise, but just in terms of his career. DeAndre Swift has been reliable for the most part after the first 3 or 4 weeks. But Ashton Zenzi would just be that guy. He would be the go-to halfback. And maybe even they trade DeAndre Swift if need be, if they have to trade up. Who knows? But the Denver Broncos here on the board do need wide receiver. And this might be where the Luther Burden slide stops just because of pure talent. If you put him next to Cortland Sutton, I think Cortland Sutton can be your X guy. Luther Burden can be the slot receiver. And they need to be able to focus on him a lot more for him to be either confident enough or develop enough to be a proper NFL wide receiver and hopefully star. But I'm going to have Luther Burden going to the Denver Broncos. I don't think they go offensive line. They've invested a lot into it recently, getting Mike McGlinchey. I don't think they try to go a young guy there. Defensive interior just doesn't make sense. Tight ends, possible Colston Loveland. I mean, you can get a tight end anywhere, really. You could get a tight end later in the draft. Tyler Warren should be good. That's really about it. But Colston Loveland is really the only for sure pick in terms of a tight end. But Luther Burden, they need to focus on that wide receiver room because Cortland Sutton is quite literally one of the only guys in there. And the Denver Broncos go wide receiver, but the almost said San Diego Chargers, Los Angeles Chargers could very well take tight end. help Justin Herbert as much as possible. I don't think they go Isaiah Bond. They kind of already have that type of wide receiver with Ladd McConkey. Ladd is also not that big, but he's a strong little guy. And that's no disrespect at all. I'm saying, like, he went up and got the ball at one point in the game against the Saints, which I was very surprised by. Emeka Egbuka could be a reliable receiver. Also, just, he's 6'1". Their wide receiver room is basically set in place with what they want. They have a tall, go-get-it guy. They have a reliable Ladd McConkey and some fill-ins around them. I mean, can't really complain about it, but their tight end position has been kind of in the gray area as of lately. And I wanted them to take Brock Bowers last year, and I'm going to have them taking tight end this year with Colston Loveland going to Los Angeles to play with Justin Herbert, which I think should be a very good duo because the Michigan quarterbacks have been able to rely on Colston Loveland throughout the season, and he has been very solid throughout. The Pittsburgh Steelers, who seem to be coming into their own now, are now here with wide receiver, tackle, and linebacker as options. Wide receiver is definitely something that I could look at. I mean, Isaiah Bond is sitting right here. George Pickens should be your jump ball guy. Danny Stutzman is a possibility. They just signed Patrick Queen, though, so I don't think they've emphasized it as much as probably most think they would. I'm going to go Isaiah Bond. Like I said, a very Jalen Waddle-esque type of receiver that I think whoever's going to be quarterback next year for the Steelers could rely heavily on Isaiah Bond. And then George Pickens gets open in space, has time to get open, hopefully with the line progressing more and more. I'm going to have Isaiah Bond going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Cincinnati Bengals could look for wide receiver as well. I mean, T. Higgins is probably on his way out. I don't know if they're going to be able to re-sign him come 2025. I think a lot of teams are going to be throwing bags at him in terms of money bags. And they probably want to focus a lot more on Jamar Chase being that guy to get the money. I could see wide receiver for sure, but defensive line has definitely been an issue for them. Michael Williams could fix that issue at this point in the draft. LT Overton has been good. I don't know if I would take him here. Or I might just go with Emeka Egbuka and keep that wide receiver room as solid as possible. Yes, they have Jermaine Burton, who has been very good, but I think he's good as a wide receiver 3. I can't see him as a wide receiver 2, although he has the talent to be. In that Cincinnati Bengals offense, they focus so much on the wide receivers that him getting open seems to be a product of T. Higgins and Jamar Chase letting him get open in terms of the defense focusing on them. He's able to break out into a route and get the proper space. Emeka Egbuka could do that. He's been very good, and he's always been one of the higher-known wide receiver prospects coming out of the draft. And I could definitely see the Bengals go wide receiver. But at the end of the day, in reality, it might be defensive line. I'm going to go Michael Williams. Yes, I know LT Overton is just sitting right there, and PFF has him ranked above Michael Williams. I think as the season goes on, Michael should be able to figure it out. I mean, he's a great run defender, which seems to be one of the bigger issues for the Bengals. I'm going to have him going and try to help that defensive line as much as possible with Trey Hendrickson. The Atlanta Falcons now on the board, who in most of my drafts I've had consistently taking James Pierce Jr., and I think I'm still going to have that happen. Although Danny Stutzman is right here, it would be a great addition because their linebacker room is good, but it's filled with people that you wouldn't expect to be good, which they've gotten there with hard work, which I respect completely. If you get Danny Stutzman, he's been a top linebacker prospect for a while, and he's been doing very well in Oklahoma. I'm kind of talking myself into it Jahad Campbell's a possibility too. I could see Danny Stutzman or James Pierce Jr. I don't think that they would go LT Overton. But for right now, I'm going to go the legitimate route and go Danny Stutzman. I mean, literally, honestly, the top linebacker in this draft class. And I think he should be very good for that team. I think he should be. I'm kind of phasing myself out of the James Pierce situation. I still think he's talented, as you can see. Oh, gosh, I want to go James Pierce, and I think I am going to. I'm going to go James Pierce Jr. He, again, was supposed to be a top prospect because of his talent, and he has it. He has the talent. He needs the opportunities, and he's been slowly getting better as the season goes on, but he needs to pick it up a little bit because I don't know if Tennessee did just beat Alabama. Yeah, I'm going to go Tennessee or James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee going to Atlanta to help that defensive line, which has been lacking edge rushers for a very long time and seem to not really focus on it as much. The Washington Commanders are now here at the 23rd spot, and it's pretty straight up which route I'm going to go, to be honest. I mean, I'm not going to go defense. I think they need to keep focusing on building around Jaden Daniels, and Ursery could definitely help that offensive line even more, especially being left tackle, which is the desperate need that they should be looking for right now. Wiley's been solid. I mean, I don't think there's any room to replace him, but that left tackle room has basically been non-existent, and the rest of the line has been very good. So I'm going to go Ursery out of Minnesota. As you saw, he's a very good pass blocker, which is usually what they go with. He's a decent run blocker, but giving Jaden Daniels the time that he needs is going to help him out even more in his development, and he's already been in really MVP conversations at this point. He's already Rookie of the Year in most people's eyes. So I'm going to go Ursery filling out that left side of the line to help Jaden Daniels and Brian Robinson Jr. in that backfield as much as possible. I keep clicking it, but Ursery is going to be going to the Washington Commanders. And the Minnesota Vikings are here, who started off undefeated and then now have lost 2 straight games after coming out of the bye, which a lot of people kind of jinxed with the way that the past Vikings team has done the same and had the exact same bye week as well. But another team that could use running back, and there is a very talented one in Quinshon Judkins. Marion Hampton has also been very good. Trevor Etienne is not the guy that we thought that he was going to be. Damian Martinez, I know it sounds biased, but Damian Martinez has also been very solid, but yeah, he's not going to be a first-round type of guy. Quinshon Judkins is definitely a possibility. Cornerback is also, and I think that might be what they're more focused on, and Siobhan Revel would be a great addition. Barring injury, he is a top 3 corner in this class and might have made his way up. Almost like a Quinyon Mitchell type of prospect coming out of last year. He impressed a lot. I mean, Quinyon Mitchell stayed healthy, but Siobhan Revel should be able to come back in the same form that he was prior to injury and should add much more to this Minnesota Vikings defense. And the Houston Texans are here now on the board at the 25th spot, looking for possible defensive line. I wouldn't be too certain about it. Joe Mixon has been the running back there. I could see the Texans going running back at this spot, but just to play it safe, I'm going to go defensive line, and I'm going to go Jack Sawyer, who has been surprisingly the guy on that Ohio State defensive line. Shamar Stewart has been very good in Texas A&M as well. That might be a later round pick. Shamar Turner would be a good one for them in a later round. I'm going to go halfback for right now. I'm going to go Quinshon Judkins to be a backup to Joe Mixon, maybe even a split backfield. That would suck for a lot of fantasy managers because they love Joe Mixon right now since he is the workhorse. But Quinshon Judkins is just very talented, and he can take advantage of his opportunities that he would be able to get in this offense and help that Texans team even more, who is injury plagued right now with Stephon Diggs going down this week and possibly being out for the season, which would suck for the Texans because they just traded for him. But the Green Bay Packers now here. Corner, still a situation, and corner might be the situation. But I'm thinking of Denzel Burke possibly not being the pick. It's almost like a Jair Alexander already. Sicario Davis, tackle, I mean, I don't know. The only one could be Emory Jones in my eyes. As much as he's been disappointing, Emory Jones is still one of the better prospects that we've seen in a while. I don't know. They would have to take Emory Jones and see if he can either switch sides or just put him where they need to. I could definitely still see tackle, though. Again, defensive interior just isn't something. Dante Corleone, maybe. That just doesn't seem like a first-round pick to me for the Packers. I'm not saying he's not a first-round pick. Holy fuck. I cannot stop coughing. I'm going to go Emory Jones. Although he has been disappointing. He can probably develop with the Packers. I don't think they're in much of a rush to replace their tackles, but they might need to soon if they don't want to re-sign them. The Philadelphia Eagles with edge and linebacker. I could definitely see several different situations here. Danny Stutzman, again. Jack Sawyer is also possible. I might take Jack Sawyer for them. Jahad Campbell is also definitely a possibility, which actually I'm going to go Jahad Campbell. Jahad Campbell is a multi-talented linebacker, and that could help their defense a lot more in terms of him being able to pass rush, but be in coverage as well. Yeah, Jahad Campbell had a great game against Georgia. Since that also didn't come out. I made a mock draft right after the Georgia game, and Jahad Campbell was just a standout guy. He wasn't even on this list at that time, so I couldn't even draft him. But Jahad Campbell was very impressive. I'm going to have him going round 1 to the Eagles. I could see them definitely going for that type of guy with the way that they went Nolan Smith a few years back, who still hasn't really done much, probably just because of situation. But the 49ers are now here, and this is where I'm going to have Denzel Burke going. They need somebody that's going to be solid for right now, and that could definitely be him. Yes, tackles should be what they go after with their aging tackles, and right tackle still being unknown. But yeah, I'm going to go Denzel Burke. That cornerback room has been very tough lately, and Denzel Burke should be able to add some depth, a younger versatility to them, since they're more known to be the experienced team in the league. And the Buffalo Bills are here, who I'm hoping trade for Budda Baker by the trade deadline, as stupid as it sounds, but safety should be the route that they go. But Kevin Winston has not been good in coverage, or was not good in coverage because he's been injured. In the past, he's been good, but I don't know if they take a risk on him. They might try to go depth at linebacker, and knowing the Bills, they've been very good at getting linebacker. With my hope that they're going to go with Budda Baker at the trade deadline and somehow get him, re-sign him, do what they need to do, I think I'm going to take Danny Stutzman for the Buffalo Bills. They need run defense, and they could also use somebody for pass coverage in terms of depth for the middle linebacker position. I think they have it already, but in terms of run defense, they kind of give it up at points, especially with the bigger halfbacks like Derrick Henry, which they gave up a lot. They gave up a lot to him. I'm going to go Danny Stutzman, add him to the team. Although normally I would probably go safety and try to focus on that backfield as much as possible, since Damar Hamlin, I mean, he's not going to be reliable in the future. The Baltimore Ravens, I don't think they go cornerback again in the first round. Nate Wiggins was already their pick last year. Josh Simmons could go here. Again, another situation of developing. Reliable pass blocking. I mean, run block might be the one that they'd probably look after, but if they think that they could fix that for him, I would definitely go Josh Simmons going to the Ravens. And the Detroit Lions are here at the 31st spot. Don't really have a lot to replace. Jack Sawyer might be going here, just simply because of depth now that Aiden Hutchinson might be facing an injury-plagued career with a very, very rough injury. I think he would definitely help that defense a lot more, although they've been solid without Aiden Hutchinson ever since his injury. But Jack Sawyer being able to be a pass rusher and a run defender, I think should be able to help that Detroit Lions team more and more. The Kansas City Chiefs could make a surprise pick and possibly go Warren at the tight end spot here. But for right now, I'm going to have them taking somebody like Ollie Gordon. Since he was a great prospect, I've seen the Chiefs go with guys that used to be good, and then they try to get him back to that form. Doesn't really work out, or it does. Ollie Gordon could be that type of guy. Possibly like Kareem Hunt before, you know. But Ollie Gordon out of OSU, at once upon a time, was the RB1 of this draft class until some situations happened with him, and Ashton Jeanty took over that spot. But I'm going to have him going to the Kansas City Chiefs, also because I hate the Kansas City Chiefs. So take what you want, Kansas City Chiefs fans. But this overall should be one of my more confident mock drafts. Let me know down in the comments below what you think about it. Maybe Cameron Williams doesn't go to the Giants at the 8th spot. Maybe you were a little pissed off about that because you're a Giants fan. Let me know. Tell me what exactly you would expect the Giants to do. I have no issue talking to you guys down in the comments below, having a conversation. But while you're down there, make sure you like so more people can see it, and subscribe so you don't miss out on future mock drafts. And I will see you in the next video. Peace.